Welcome, everybody. F1 Chase for the Title here. I'm your host, JB, with my cohorts, Dr. Bill. Say hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Mr. Steve, say hello.
Good morning.
And a Brainiac, Chase, say hello.
Hello.
We've just finished watching, I'm not sure what we watched. We watched something. It came from Azerbaijan, from Baku. And every time I hear Baku, I say, bless you. Sounds like Achu. Get that, guys? Baku, Achu.
Yep.
What an exciting race that we ended up having here on this track that is sort of a combo of Monaco meets Monza. Speed and corners and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So kind of a shocking ending. And, well, let's get right into it. Dr. Bill, what were your first impressions?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, even before all the drama during the race, I said, you know what? I really like this course. It's just such a neat, with the trees overhanging the course and branches falling onto the course and the buildings right there and the castle. I like that little kind of slalom through the castle with the sun in your eyes. It's just a great course. And then just to add on to just the way this race went, it was fantastic.
High speed, lots of places to pass, really interesting. And wear and tear on tires, as we found out, is also an issue with this track. Steve, your thoughts?
Most certainly the most entertaining race of this year. I would say it would even rank up in last year's races. Beautiful course. It had every kind of challenge. It had every kind of scenic view you could ask for on a street course. It was great location, great race. Enjoyable to watch.
And young Chase, what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, this is like from my experience in watching like old replays and stuff like that. This was definitely by far my favorite street circuit, and I like it always. I knew it made for interesting results, and I think all the greatest elements of the circuit really came through and performed today.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a reputation for being the best track for passing. They say that it's like a 77% chance to pass there or something like that. And its speed is they keep the highest level of speed throughout the whole circuit. So it's really made it exciting. Verstappen got off to a wonderful start and was looking dominant with some surprising contenders as the race went on. And then we had a yellow flag, I think, at lap 31 or 32, and that kind of changed the tenor of things, and a little more strategy started to come into play. But geez, at the end of the day, who do we have on the podium? We had Pierre Gasly, right? And we had Checo Perez and a guy named Sebastian Vettel. How the hell did that happen, Dr. Bill?
It was great. I mean, he was there and he just happened. He was just in the right spot at the right time. He was close enough. He was out of the podium for long enough, but he was able to just be there and just take advantage of the problems, not Max's problem, but take advantage of that and take advantages of Lewis's error.
So if you didn't watch the race, folks, Verstappen's dominating, and all of a sudden, tire blows, literally blows, and he's going down a straight 190 miles an hour, crashes into the barrier. They still were going to do research, but the
5 laps to go.
Red team was basically, Red Bull was basically saying there was no cut in the tire just exploded on them. And all of a sudden we're like, what's going to happen? And we get a red flag, which changed the whole tenor of the race. Steve, what do you think? Up until that point, you had to feel like this is Verstappen's race to lose, and then he gets Bottas type luck.
Yeah, and what a pathetic showing it was for Bottas, but that's typical. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think the first 11, 15 laps were kind of exciting in the way the things started out and the formation and some of the pit strategies with tires. It was very interesting. And then there was probably a lull of 10 or 15 laps in the middle. And then obviously the last 10 laps were just mind-blowing in the shifts that you saw. And to your point earlier about Max going out, you heard pretty quickly the Red Bull team going to F1 and saying, that was a completely unexpected tire puncture. It was not on our metrics. You need to red flag it. You need to get everybody in for a fresh set of tires, which, Chase and I were kind of going back and forth because you've got Perez Hamilton, and Vettel. And to put new tires on everybody's cars, you wonder what kind of strategy is Red Bull thinking by trying to take that approach? Because if they had stayed yellow, they would have finished in that order.
Yeah, and Vettel was on a brand new set of soft tires as it was, because the way they played the strategy, he stayed out longer than everybody else, and was for a while was actually leading the race for 3-4 laps, which was kind of impressive. And so it's rejuvenated Vettel, and then you got this guy Perez, Checo, who was playing checkmate and keeping him behind him, when Hamilton was trying to get past and just couldn't do it, and he was playing great blocking guard for Verstappen, right, Chase?
Yeah, no, it was insane. And I was thinking about that earlier when you brought up that statistic, like 70% passing rate. I was just like, not for Hamilton, because it seemed like for the entire first 60% of the race, he was just stuck behind Perez.
It looked like the Ferraris were a little bit of a duck out of water on this track. For some reason, it just didn't look like they felt like they fit on this track. Whereas, where Vettel loves it, he's done his performance and track record since this track opened is phenomenal. And you could tell some of the other younger drivers love driving it too, because of this combination of speed and precision that you have with this Monza mix. So, to recap a little bit, so we go basically up until 5 laps, is a 51 lap race, and we go through lap 46 or something, I think it was, and that's when Verstappen has this colossal tire failure, and all of a sudden, all bets are off now as to what's going to happen. So they red flag it because there was so much damage. There had been a yellow flag earlier in the race, I think around 30-31.
Safety car came out. Yep.
Safety car came out, which is normal for this track. So. But a red flag now with 5 laps to go, and there was a debate, as we're talking about, as to whether they were going to restart the race, or because it's only, I think, there were only 2 laps left at that point, right? Because they did
a formation,
a couple laps under the yellow, and then they did 2 laps, right? So basically, a 51 lap race came down to a 2 lap sprint, right? And so, how do we start this again, Dr. Bill?
Well, there were two choices. You could restart it with a rolling start behind the safety car or a standing start. And, as I was discussing, whatever Michael Massey, the race director, decides, he's got to justify that decision to all of the teams. Why do one for the other? And I was thinking, well, if everybody's changing tires, maybe it's best to do it under a safety car so people can get the tires warmed up and get the feel of the tires. But I don't know if people actually did change tires, despite what Red Bull was suggesting people to do. So nonetheless, they ended up starting with a standing start, which was a very smoky affair for Lewis Hamilton, because you could see in the distance, you could see his brakes smoking even before the lights went out.
And one of the interesting thing is that, which I didn't quite realize, they still go out for basically a warm up formation lap, even with the red flag, just because it's replicating what they do at the start of the race. However, under a red flag, I understand they're regulated as to what kind of speeds and things they can do. So that they, when they're doing their warm-up formation lap before the start of a race, they're allowed to pretty much do whatever they want, start and stop, skid the tires, sway back and forth, whatever the hell they want. But apparently, when it's under the red flag, there's certain parameters that they can't speed-wise and distance, and they have to maintain their distance. And so it's not the same warm-up that they get at the beginning of the race, apparently. So they made a point of saying that can affect the tires, to your point, Dr. Bill, and whereas Vettel's sitting on a pair of soft tires that he's already been on for a couple of laps. So it's very exciting, because all of a sudden it's like taking the dice and re-racking them, right? Because even though you're in the starting positions where you are on the track, it's a different way. The car's performance is much different from a standing start than it is obviously when it's in race, right, Chase?
Yeah, no, it's a big difference. And as you could see on that restart, Hamilton did initially have such a superior getaway. It was just when it came down to that first turn, he I don't know, maybe it was on the brake too hard, but it locked up and he went right off into that runoff. And from there, that was just kind of it, because you can't dangerously re-enter. You have to wait till everyone gets by, down to the last driver.
And I don't know what he did, notwithstanding what I said just a few seconds ago. His tires were smoking. His whole car looked like it was like in a the heat was evaporating into the cooler air because everybody else was like nothing like that. His looked like his car was on freaking fire, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those the front brake pedals were just steaming, going crazy. And you think, watching that, you just think something doesn't seem right. But then on the inside, he had such a good start. Perez tried to block him, unsuccessful. Right. And then oddly enough, fortunately, Hamilton got enough of a lead going into that corner that even though he was able to, skid and go off, it didn't block Perez from going right into him.
And actually, if you look at that too, where Hamilton makes that move and comes over, Perez, if he had held his line, probably the two of them would have collided and taken both of them out. So I mean, good. Yeah. I mean, good on Perez basically for being a little more disciplined. Say, all right, you got me here. I'm going to try to get you somewhere else. And meanwhile, he got Vettel right on their tail. I mean, that was unbelievable watching him.
Yeah, yeah. He was right there, and I was the whole time. I mean, it looked like it wasn't my view, but it seemed like Lewis got a better jump off of that restart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would have, if he didn't lock up or whatever he did, he would have probably had the lead coming out of that turn.
And then, of course, you had Gasly and Charles Leclerc having a battle back and forth, and they traded positions from third to fourth a couple times, which was kind of fun to watch. And I don't know, it just seemed like it energized the rest of the field because all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's a restart, it's a new opportunity. Let's see what we can get done. And a 2-lap sprint had, candidly, had probably had more excitement in the last 2 laps than we had in the combined race up at that point, right?
Yeah, that was, and I think previously they went under the yellow car for Stroll blowing out the same tire in kind of the same spot. I think it was a little earlier in that straightaway, but basically the same kind of failure. And I mean, again, I've said this a number of times because it always amazes me. The more you watch this, the more things that you didn't realize or don't know about. For example, who determines the tire compounds? So I guess it's Pirelli determines what compounds and what PSI, and they're kind of in charge of that. Which I had no idea they were the ones, but it makes sense that they were the ones who determine what tire compounds are being run on that race weekend.
Yeah. So the way it works is you have 5 tires, like 5 different compounds, and you used to every weekend have a selection of each of the 5, but now they just Pirelli chooses a span of 3 that get brought into a race weekend. So your set of mediums for Baku might be a set of softs for a different course or a set of hards for a different course, but they take a set of 3 somewhere on that scale of 5. And that's what they do for each race weekend, depending on the circuit. And then the tire pressures and stuff can be changed by each team individually for their setup.
But the teams work closely with Pirelli because they want to give them all the feedback on their performance when they're testing and stuff. So, Pirelli, it's not like Pirelli's doing it in a vacuum. They're doing it in concert with the teams, understanding the data for the performance of the cars. Otherwise, we have this would be like this every week where we have, these things blowing up. That's why Pirelli's got so much at stake because, everybody knows it's Pirelli tires. And so it's like, particularly in Europe, if you're getting tires replaced and you got a choice between Pirellis and Firestones and you're a fan of Formula One, and you say, if it's good enough for Lewis Hamilton, it's good enough for me, right? That's the whole reason why they're, in addition to, performance data and stuff. So it's not a great marketing move for them to have, 2 tires blow in a Grand Prix like this.
Yeah.
And they did make a change from yesterday's qualifying to today's race of 1 PSI of to 19. So there was a definite change in the structure and formatting of the tire by Pirelli.
Yeah, so it was just very exciting. And it makes you kind of wonder, if you want to sort of talk about how you can make the sport better. There's something about this whole red flag thing, restart. It's almost like, if you could reposition things so you would run half the race, total up everybody, people get points. And we're restarting the race again where everybody is right now. I wonder if over time the results would be different than if they just did the straight racing like they do. Because, boy, it seems like every time there's a red flag restart, something exciting happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So so obviously I think it's pretty much a consensus that you have to give Vettel driver of the day, even though Perez won. I thought Vettel, I don't think anybody expected Vettel to be on the podium, maybe top 5 or 6 this week, but I don't think anyone was picking him for a podium.
Yeah. And actually, you would think Perez could have gotten, aside from him winning, just his role. And again, I look at the contrast between the role of the second driver of Red Bull versus Mercedes. Where did Bottas finish? Like, I don't know, 15th or 13th. He's racing. He's until George Russell went out, he was battling with George Russell.
Yep.
You know, Bottas again. Here we go. I mean, I don't think he's going to make the season. I think they're going to pull him. But
well, that's a good lead in. That's a good lead into the. I think I pinned an article to you guys where Bottas came out yesterday, or maybe the day before yesterday, and was complaining about his crew, and he said he made these complaints before. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you thinking? You know, what are you thinking? Like, you've got enough stuff that you've done on your own. Just start blaming your crew. So that's, to me, to your point, Dr. Bill, that to me is a sign that maybe he knows that he's not long for the season. Maybe there is going to be a mid-season change. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, we've already had a little test run of it at the end of last year, and that would make perfect sense. So, and the poor guy, Jesus, private plane case, got some technical problems. He can't even get to Azerbaijan, the poor guy. So,
but I think it brings up the, you know, as Chase was pointing out with Perez and Verstappen, you really, and I think we made this point last time at Monaco, you got 4 or 5 teams now of drivers of putting aside Hamilton. Let's say he's on another level, and maybe Max is a step down, but for the most part, you got teammates now on these top 5 teams, and it's not a clear cut number 1, number 2 situation with a couple of them, and the younger guys, and they seem to be supportive of each other. And I think that's in races like this is where it helps out, when one guy's willing to sit there and say, well, I'll try to play blocking for you because you got the best car today and you're doing better than me. Maybe next race it'll be reversed. Chase, what do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we saw that, well, I guess with Red Bull and like Perez and Hamilton. But even just like on the side, like Ocon retired early, but he was still like rooting for his teammate Fernando Alonso. Wasn't intentional, but Stroll's crashing did actually help Vettel a lot because it got him that safety car where he got Leclerc and I think Gasly. But yeah, there wasn't, I think, an overly amount of camera on the midfield races today.
No.
But there's definitely this season been a lot of support between teammates.
I thought some of the inboard camera work this week was really good, particularly with the Vettel. It reminded me of Monaco, some of these spots are going around, and just the precision driving they have to do on this course is just very impressive.
Yeah, I think this course may have the slowest speed corners of any in the program. I think.
Right, yeah,
It's
some
a
of them
lot of
are very,
90-degree
very tight.
turns.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very exciting, and I think the fact that the championship now is still so close. We put that up with the driver standing there, Chase.
Yep.
I think they said that Verstappen's 105 and Hamilton's 101. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
But there were a lot of great points made in the midfield. I mean, you look at 7th place with Yuki, then you got Alonso at 6th. Norris was able to work his way back, and Leclerc was down a bit and was able to recover and
Leclerc was very close to a podium, just Gasly just outdrove him there. So no, I think I think it's great for the sport, and I had to like you guys probably all thought, oh, here we go again, Hamilton. If things break, they always break for Hamilton. Right? They never break against him.
Yep.
And I thought for darn sure when he got a lead, I'm like, and I don't know about you guys, but I was like, when I saw him lock up and go off, I'm like, yeah, baby. Yeah.
We were yelling. We were like, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was like, yeah, baby. I scared the dogs. I'm like, finally, not that I don't wish him ill will, but it's like, you know what? This guy has he's not only best car, arguably the best driver, but the best luck. It's not fair to have all 3 of those things.
Yeah.
I know we were saying that. We were like, if Hamilton overtakes Perez on this red flag and wins the race, I'm just going to hear nonstop talk about how the FIA is working with Mercedes and trying to get Hamilton to win. And I was like, God, I just really don't want to have to hear all of that for the next week and a half.
Actually, I was just talking last week to somebody in the OR about this, where they were like, yeah, I used to follow it a lot, but it's Mercedes wins every weekend. So I've kind of gotten disinterested about it. So it's like you said, Pete, not something against anything ill will to Hamilton, but it's just nice to have a little change of pace and someone who always has the good luck to have that fall the other way for once.
And in this case, you have total misfortune for Verstappen. Hamilton drives himself off the track, and at least a Red Bull teammate comes up to the top spot as a result. It's not like somebody else slipped up, and so it's like a total disaster for Red Bull because they basically, they fell out of the points. So I thought it was, if races could be this interesting every time out, I think at least in the United States, I think the audience would grow tremendously. And speaking of that, as we wrap up here, there's some thought that with a couple races being canceled, that they may add an extra race to the schedule, a replacement, and it may be somewhere in the United States. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't said where though, right?
No, and my guesses are Indianapolis, because they built the track there, and they're in the early 2000s. I think they had a race. Historically, they had one out in Long Beach. They had an IndyCar track, which the F1 used to, I think in the 70s and early 80s, used to race there. Romantically, it'd be great to see him come back to Watkins Glen, but I just don't think that facility can handle sports cars. I don't think it can handle the Formula Ones. Or Steve, Road Atlanta, maybe. What do you think? Would that be some place where Formula One could go? You think?
It theoretically
layout, right?
You've got months to prep for it, which I think is the real disadvantage. I think if you had more than 6 months to get it prepped and ready, all those courses might be in contention. But I think right now with so little time to organize logistically, it could be a challenge.
And is that race being added because Singapore was dropped?
Yeah. So they've got to figure out there's I think a block between Singapore and then coming over to the United States. So the question is, do you stay in that general vicinity, or do you just cross over and now have three North America races?
Right.
Because is Canada definitely on or off now?
It's done. It's off.
Done, yeah.
It's off.
No,
Not happening.
Yeah, Mexico, right? There's an F1 race in Mexico this year, right? Pretty sure.
See.
I'm not sure when it is, but
yes. October 29, 31.
And that's right before. Is it right before Austin?
After.
Right after.
Right after Austin. Okay.
Yep.
So theoretically, I guess what you're looking at is probably then a race in early October in the U.S. In the U.S. Yeah. Yeah,
but I'm looking at the schedule here. They have Russia, September 24 to 26. Then Singapore was supposed to be in there, so that's gone. And then Japan is after that, October 1 to 3.
Okay, that's where the U.S. race will be, if there's going to be a U.S. race.
But then they got to go to Japan, and then they got to come back to the U.S. So they may switch the order and put Japan into Singapore, and then move the gap. Put another North American race.
Well, it would make sense that it's in sequential order, that you got Austin, something, and then Mexico. So you have 3 at least in this side of the world. So very exciting. So listen, everybody, I hope you enjoyed watching this race. It does give you a flavor for what F1 can be when the cards are sort of reshuffled, and how talented these drivers are. And the nice thing was, I think, seeing the enthusiasm of the teams, particularly Aston Martin and Alpine?
AlphaTauri.
Yeah, and obviously Red Bull was excited too, but with Perez, because I think it's his second win. But to see that on the podium at this level, and see how exuberant these people are, it just shows you how hard they work. It's such a huge team effort that when things go bad, everyone wants to point fingers, whatever. But you know what? When you win, it's like everybody feels like they've got a piece of the action. It was so nice seeing people be enthusiastic. You see Vettel come up and talk to Perez and Gasly and stuff, and he's Vettel's 34, 35. He's won four drivers' championships, and he was jumping around like a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it was neat to see, like in the background, I think they were showing Christian Horner walking across the pit lane, and you could see like the AlphaTauri people were running by him. It was like as if it was New Year's Eve. I mean, they're just they were going crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then one thing we should have pointed out is Perez was told to park his car about 400 meters from the from the start finish line because they were afraid the car was going to break because if they were getting apparently sensors on the car were saying something was about to go. So they're like, park the car.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even pull it up in the normal spot where Victor's supposed to pull it. He had to pull it off to the side.
But that made me think, like, what if they called the red flag like one lap earlier or something like that? And
he might have not been there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, based on what they're saying is because they were like, pull, stop the car. You could hear him on the radio. Stop the car. Stop the car.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, folks. What's our next race on the calendar there, Chase?
I think I said this last time, but I think it's France. Power card.
Yep.
France, is that next to Portugal, Chase?
Oh,
sorry.
No, I can say this one confidently. No.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right. So
yeah, a big contrast in circuit styles.
I like Power Card. A lot of people don't like Power Card, but I like Power Card.
Power Card almost looks like a Nintendo game sometimes with all those colors and those stripes. I'm waiting to see shells come shooting out of the car, little banana peels.
I'm sorry, isn't that a cognac Power Card?
I think it might be. Yeah.
Sounds like a cognac. Give me a Power Card, please. Should make it 2, please. Thank you. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. This was a live broadcast, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, Chase?
Yeah.
Yes, 2 weeks' time to see Paul Ricard and Cognac and Formula One racing. So we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.